All right, Madam Chair, we're ready to start the meeting.
All right, good to see everybody. Today is Thursday, March 24th at
6:17.
6:17. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order.
I move to call the meeting to order.
I'll second the call.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go ahead and take roll. You want to go first?
Present.
Present.
Okay, so the co-chair is here, the secretary is here, and I am also here as the chair. We are ready to go ahead and get started.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, who is?
Hang on for a second. We've got your face covered up and we certainly want to see it.
Oh,
There we go. You look better.
excellent. And Trent, you might want to move the mouse or the keyboard closer to you in case that happens again.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so this is the agenda, a typical CDBG year.
Madam Chair, so I believe after the roll call, we were on item number 3, public comment. Do you want to open it up for public comment? Although I don't see any members of the public participating on the Zoom call.
Right. Certainly, we'll go ahead and open for public comment if there's anybody out there, or please.
I don't
speak
believe
up.
there's anyone in the conference room as far as member of the public, no?
No.
Okay, then
Okay,
we'll move
then,
on to number 4.
Yes, so I don't have a presentation today, but I did include a schedule of events that occur during a typical CDBG year. And I apologize, the staff report that was included in the agenda packet did not include the bullet points, so it was a little hard to read, and we realized it after the fact. But then I emailed you a Microsoft Word document that included like the bullet points under each month. So let me share that screen with you.
Okay, hang for just a second. I'm a little confused. I'm looking at approval of the minutes as number 4.
I apologize. Yes, you're absolutely right. So we can either approve all minutes with one motion, or have several motions approving the minutes separately. It's
Okay, I think if we do them all together, that'll be
I
fine.
think so.
Let's get a motion to approve all the minutes at once.
I move to approve all the minutes at once.
I'll second approving all the minutes at once.
Ta-da, we're done.
Oh, you gotta call the
in a
roll.
roll call, please.
Call roll. Okay, we're gonna call roll
Aye.
Aye.
and aye.
Actually, for the record, let me do the roll call and read the names.
Okay,
Committee member Bergman,
Aye.
committee member Parker,
Aye.
and Chair Cormier.
aye.
Excellent. Your motion passes unanimously. Okay, we are ready now to move on to the next item. So let me share my screen with you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So really the big takeaway from this list is the quarterly reports that we receive. In most jurisdictions, the CDBG advisory committee meetings, jurisdictions that are the size of Seaside, their meetings revolve around their quarterly or monthly reports. In our case, we require subrecipients that receive CDBG funding to report their progress as well in accomplishments, as well as request reimbursement on a quarterly basis. And the quarters are based on a fiscal year. So for example, our first quarter runs from July 1st through September 30th, second quarter, October 1st through December 30th, and third quarter, January 1st, March 31st, and then fourth quarter and final quarter runs from April 1st through June 30th. And subrecipients are required, both capital improvement grant recipients as well as public service subrecipients, to report their accomplishments as well as request their reimbursements by the 15th of the following month. So for example, for this current quarter, which ends on March 31st, they all are required based on their agreements to submit their requests by April 15th. Some submit their data early, as soon as the first week, and some wait until the last day. But generally, we get all quarterly reports by the 15th. So one approach would be to have regular meetings, maybe at the end of, for example, so next meeting at the end of April, in order to review the data for the prior quarter. So hold regular meetings on a quarterly basis, but then call for special meetings as needed, as other special milestones come along, which are outlined in the report. Sometimes we might be able to accommodate, let's say, so for example, in July, I will start working on the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which is an annual report in which we compile all of the accomplishments reported by subrecipients in that document, and we submit it to HUD by September 30th. So usually staff are able to complete that report, have the first draft available by mid or early August. So that's something that in other jurisdictions, like the CDBG advisory committees, review first before we release it for public comment and take it to City Council. And remember, all of the documents that are prepared for the CDBG program must be made available for public comment. And the public comment periods vary. For the annual action plan, it's 30 days. For the CAPER, or the Consolidated Annual and Performance Evaluation Report, it's 15 days. And sometimes HUD may change those requirements depending. So for example, during COVID, they reduced the public comment and review period from 30 days for the annual action plan to 5 days only, from 30 days. But I think it is definitely the jurisdiction of this committee to review draft documents, whether it's the CAPER, whether it's the annual action plan, whether it's the consolidated plan, before it goes to City Council. And staff along the way will be alerting this body as to the need for special meetings. So I'm looking for direction, because this is what the city clerk's office needs to come up with a regular meeting schedule, a regular time, a regular day, so that she can set up the agenda template. But then we could have special meetings as needed. I don't know if you guys have any questions that I can address. Yes, please.
So I know that, like in April, for example, we know that they have a quarterly report and they have an end date of April 15th. What if we say we have a meeting 10 days after their cutoff date? That way we could ask questions if we have questions about their reports.
I was hoping to maybe stick with the fourth Thursday, maybe around the same time, 6 p.m. That will allow some time for staff to consolidate and print or download all those reports and prepare the agenda packet. 10 days might be a little too soon, because again, sometimes some subrecipients fall behind on submitting their reports by the 15th. So sometimes we really have to go after them to submit their reports. The fourth Thursday would allow us to download that data, compile it, and include it in a staff report. And then the other important point is whether this committee wants to require quarterly presentations or maybe annual presentations, I don't know. Perhaps maybe annual presentations make more sense to give us a sense of what they accomplished during the whole year versus quarterly. I guess quarterly might be more appropriate. Presentations from agencies might be more appropriate for capital improvement projects like larger ones. But for public service, I think their narrative is usually very helpful in understanding what they did and what they accomplished, what obstacles they faced. But for the larger projects, which is usually an issue, I think it might make sense to require even maybe like a once every 6 months update. And so that's the other question for this
Yeah.
committee. Do we want those presentations as part of our quarterly reports, or do we want them to be given at special meetings? So
I like the idea of the quarterly meeting for the capital improvements, because it won't be as lengthy, but it keeps them accountable. And they know, that they have to have stuff done because they'll be back again soon.
absolutely, and that will help staff too, to have the backing of this committee to push some applicants to move their projects forward. Because we have had challenges, just staff pushing applicants to move their projects forward. It's yeah, but I think it will be incentivize them, I think.
Yeah.
What about your quarterly for the capital improvements people?
I mean, I'm fine for the capital improvements to be 40, that makes sense. I'm a little concerned because we've seen so many unforeseen challenges due to COVID. To give that flexibility also, not to hear so much from the public service. And I'm worried on if they come upon some challenges, if they can't use the money adequate, if they would need, to provide like some kind of help or support that the committee could recommend for them. If they come
Is there a
across
way
some-
that the city can contact the others and say, you have a 6-month report, but you can do it in quarterly if you like, if you want assistance or, if you're having issues?
So again, they provide detailed expense as well as activity reports in which they report their accomplishments, challenges they face, any additional comments. So I think maybe on a case-by-case basis, once the committee reviews and determines that, subrecipient is falling behind on, spending their allocated funds, or, probably maybe they're facing challenges that they may, they could use your help, then maybe
Right.
you need
How often do they turn that information in?
quarterly. So for example, for the quarter that began on January 1st and that will end on March 31st, everybody will be turning in their reports by April 15th.
Okay.
So yeah, if we meet on the 4th.
Call them in.
Yeah, I mean, some of them have experience doing this because they return back year after year, but some of them are doing this for the first time. So they might encounter some hiccups that they're not aware of, and you don't want a group to get themselves in trouble. And then if it's some long term that they can't apply.
Would that be caught though in the quarterly documents? If they're
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Like
Like having
and
that
then we could call them in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of
Like if they
annually.
If they seem to be having problems, we ask them. to
Yeah.
present.
That's the benefits of having everybody come in quarterly. If you give one group 6 months.
No, they won't be coming in. They'll be turning their
Turning in
paperwork in
every
and
6
we'll
months.
review it and
Yeah.
say, oh, they're coming along, or, oh, no, I have
Yeah, we have
questions.
yeah.
And then we can pull them in before their 6 months. But we'll
Correct.
receive their paperwork quarterly.
Or if the committee sees any issues with a report or an accomplishment data or expense, they can always raise those questions during that quarterly meeting that we will be holding. And either staff can address them with the subrecipient with the committee's direction, or we can request them to, provide additional information. So I don't think, though they will be presenting the same information that they will provide in the quarterly reports. So I don't
Right.
see, I don't think the committee's role is to counsel them, on probably technical issues or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the capital improvement projects,
I don't want to be put in a situation where you have a group that, because they think it's 6 months when they have to report, sometimes some organizations.
They all report quarterly.
Yeah, so they all will continue to report quarterly. It's just when they come in, it won't be once a year, it'll be every 6 months.
We'll be doing, we'll get all the reports quarterly. And then the capital improvement, they'll be knowing that they have to come in and do a presentation. But the
either,
others-
I'm sorry to interrupt, either come in or make a Zoom presentation to this body.
Okay,
Yeah. I think that Zoom might be more effective. Just give them 5 minutes of time,
right,
provide, the information that sometimes capital improvement projects can be complicated. So we need to ask them clarifying questions. What was it that really held up the project?
yeah, I agree with that. And then we'll get everybody's report. And then if anything is questionable for whatever reason, then instead of coming in, every 6 months, we'll say, we have some questions. Can you come in and see us next month?
Absolutely.
Does that
And
make
it's,
sense to you?
Yeah, I'm just kind of worried because sometimes people tend to get so busy in helping and stuff, and when it comes to doing actual paperwork.
Well, they're gonna have to submit.
Well, they have to
quarterly
answer.
regardless.
Yeah, they have to answer, we didn't get your report, or you only answered half the questions, or, what's going on? We thought this would be done, or,
can I clarify? I think there's
I want you-
Committee Member Bergman is still unclear. So just to clarify, all subrecipients, whether they're public service grant subrecipients or capital improvement grant awardees, they all turn in their expense in quarterly reports on a quarterly basis, no matter what. So I'll be providing those reports to you, which are narrative reports, sometimes very detailed. They entail a lot of details about what they did over the quarter. It's just that it might be a little too much to request presentations from all subrecipients. I'm just saying, because the capital improvement grant subrecipients, those are bigger projects, they receive bigger funding. I think it's good to have them provide a 3-minute presentation, just brief, show us pictures, what did you do, just some progress pictures. I think it will help us understand their progress better.
Those will have like tangible improvements, like they've,
Exactly, yes.
Construction. or
Right.
something.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my concern is not really so much with the capital improvement projects because they're more accustomed to this for the public service.
right.
My concern is, are we being fair enough if we tell them, hey, we need you to come in to do a presentation? Like, are we being fair enough, giving them enough notice for them to prepare versus them knowing
Well, we'd be giving them 30 days, right?
30 days?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, so we'll have 3 months in between quarters.
Yeah.
That puts a fire on it.
Yeah.
And by the time you come in, I know you're gonna have something to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of where my mind was going with public service. I'm like, what if they're not doing what they're reporting, and you can see the trouble on their reporting of what they're having, and then you're asking them, hey, while you're struggling on this, you're also have to do a presentation. Now they're
Right,
like, oh.
and then plus, I think if we give them 30 days, it's gonna put a fire under them to get something done. And also, they can contact the city if they have issues and say, hey,
Correct, yes. And then also, additionally, I send out the agenda, publication notice to everybody across the board, subrecipients. First and foremost, we can, ask them to attend the meeting in case the committee has any questions about their submitted reports. That's one way to handle, questions and clarity right at that meeting. But then if the subrecipient is not participating in that meeting, then staff will, based on the committee's direction, inform the subrecipient to prepare a presentation at the next quarterly meeting. They'll have 3 months to prepare the info, and hopefully they will have addressed, the concerns of the committee during the next quarter.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah,
That
and
makes
then
sense.
No, yeah, because I don't want to be like, hey, we hooked you up, and then you
Right,
guys
talk to
leave
you
it out
later,
and
yeah.
see 6 months. I'm like, hey, what happened here?
Yeah,
And all you get is like, oh, sorry.
yeah,
It's
no,
like,
we're not
we
gonna
don't
let
do
that happen, no, 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 no.
And then annually, to assist staff with the preparation of CAPER, the final, evaluation report for the city, I think it will make sense for them to provide like an annual presentation. So we can ask them maybe during our July meeting to
Mhm.
come forward and provide a final presentation based on their final annual report. So they will be submitting a final annual report to the city, which will include data from all the 4 quarters.
Okay,
I think that will be just to get them in the habit of providing those kinds of presentations will be really useful for the committee as well as staff.
So I have a question that's been on the back of my mind. If there's a group that ends up getting the money and then halfway through the process, they don't deliver on their end of their promise, what happens to that money? Are they supposed to pay it back? Is it forgiven?
No, so the agreement is good for only 1 year. The funds are allocated for a specific fiscal year. So for example, this committee approved funding for XYZ agency for $10,000 for fiscal year 21 or 22, 23. That money is only good or promised for that fiscal year for the services proposed. If there are any unused funds, and that's something that hasn't been done because we did not have a CDAC, we did not but we need to get in the habit of implementing mid-year adjustments. So let's say in November, we will see if someone is falling behind, we'll be reaching out to those subrecipients. If they cannot implement or deliver the services that they propose, then we'll probably ask them to either give up their contract, and then that will become unused funds, and then we'll need to implement. There's a special process that we will need to go through. Again, it's just we will be amending our annual action plan for that year, and we'll go through a public hearing process, not just CDAC public hearing process, but also City Council, as well as there's a process that we go through with HUD to incorporate those or reallocate those funds to new programs. There are different ways to reuse those funds or reallocate those funds that are not used. But that's really the role of this committee, to evaluate the programs that you approve funding for. If someone is lagging behind, we can hold them accountable. If they don't perform, this committee deems necessary that the funding needs to be taken away because they are not able to deliver the services they proposed. That we can there's due process for that.
okay, that makes sense to
And
me.
we keep track of organizations that probably have a bad habit to be like,
Well, that's what he gets to do.
yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, COVID threw things off for not just our subrecipients, but for a lot of organizations. Unavailability of product for capital improvement projects, labor shortages, just all of the things. Closures. A lot of these nonprofits were, they just closed for a prolonged period of time. But they pivoted their programs as effectively as they could, considering all the Zoom challenges and,
Right.
yeah.
But
But,
we're falling back into line. That's what the 3 of us are gonna do.
So I had another question, because I noticed at the council meeting, after they approved our recommendations, the council members were having a discussion about that 15%. The council said they were gonna absorb. What ended up happening with that?
okay, so what they essentially did, or the council did, was they reduced the CDBG program administration funds, or they took money from that bucket and gave it to the capital improvement projects. So everybody that had requested like 50, 40,000, and then the $250,000, the council approved the full amounts, and they reduced the CDBG planning and administration funding, which is really for staff salaries, staff benefits, any consulting fees that we pay for like highly specialized like services like labor compliance, like legal notices, we pay for them, and we pay them with the funds, that are allocated to the CDBG planning and administration category. We ended up with like 60 something thousand dollars in that bucket. I think it should be enough. If it's not enough, then any additional funds needed for city staff salaries and benefits and all those other categories associated with CDBG program, the operational costs will be subsidized with general fund monies. So finance will take care of that. So they'll transfer some funds from the general fund to
So
make.
everybody's still getting what they thought.
No,
Correct, yes.
Hang on.
If you remember, public service organizations, they're capped at 15%. Even if we had $1 million, we could not give them more than $72,000. That's we're limited by that threshold. So the council approved your recommendation for the public service organizations, but the council took money away from planning and administration and made everybody full on the capital improvement side. They just said, okay, you get the full requested amount for each of the next 2 fiscal years. Yeah.
So they're getting even more.
Correct. Yes. More than what CDAC approved. So
that was just the capital improvement projects. Our public service organizations, they're capped off, so they couldn't get.
They couldn't get what
extra
we had
amount.
allotted for them?
They got
correct.
like
Yes.
Okay.
But that's it.
That's
The
yeah.
request is a little bit higher when they originally requested, but we couldn't because we're capped off.
So technically, the city can allocate all of its funds from the federal government and the program income. We can allocate all 100% of the funds to capital improvement programs. But if we want to use those monies for program administration in public services, then we are limited. So public services, we are limited to, we can only allocate up to 15%. We are not even required to do 15%. 15% is the max. For administration, we can again allocate up to 20%. It's not required that we allocate exactly 20%. It's up to 20%.
Okay.
I just followed precedents, what the city had done in the past, 15% for public services and 20% for program administration to cover the program operational costs.
Okay.
But it's okay. It's council was generous enough to
That's very nice, right?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, those monies will be invested in the city of Seaside and its facilities, so we'll have
That's the whole
a
point.
nicer floor in our clubhouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the direction so far I have is have quarterly meetings. So for example, for this current quarter, we'll meet on April 28th, so the end of the month. And then our next regular meeting will be on July, let me see. Oh, actually July 28th. And we agree on 6 p.m.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're at April 28th, and then again, we're going to July.
Yeah.
28th.
Okay,
So like quarterly, but what we're doing is we're meeting 4 weeks after everybody, like
April 28th is not gonna work for me.
April 28th won't work for you?
No, I'll be out of the country.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Maybe.
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Are you able to join us by Zoom, or you would prefer not to?
I would prefer not to. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no, I totally get it. Okay.
Should we do the
Um,
21st? Would that work?
I'm sure, I just don't know. So April 15th is the last day, and again, unfortunately, a lot of them wait until like, like the last hour.
So you don't want to give me.
And then I mean, I need some time to prepare, a staff report and,
Well,
I can do the 27th, I think.
you could do the 27th. Well, what about you?
yeah, that's perfect. But yeah, last week, any day works for me. The 27th is good. I'll need to just convince the city clerk with that date then.
Okay, April 27th it is. Do we need to vote on that or something?
We can vote on it, vote on this at the end. I mean, this is really, we don't need a vote, really. It's just direction to staff and, and again, our work plan is going to be fluid and it's going to be a living document. We can change,
Okay.
add meetings as needed.
But
But
we're not seeing each other for May and June, right?
Unless something comes up, I guess.
Well, right now we're figuring out quarterly, but we're also going to do monthly, right?
so that's,
Monthly as needed.
it's up to you. And what business will we be discussing on during our monthly meetings? Again, I'm looking for direction from this committee.
I would suggest we do quarterly regular meetings, then call a meeting on the every month if we need it.
Yeah, if we find out that there's, people falling behind or something, that we wouldn't want to wait quarterly, we would do a monthly.
And again, we will certainly need special meetings for some of the events that occur during a typical year.
Right.
For example, like the agency presentations for the funding cycle, the review of the NOFA document, and we will have a lot of, and especially if we have unused funds, like agency turns funds back to the city and says, I'm not able to implement this project, then we'll need to, and again, we can either wait until the next year to incorporate those funds into the next annual action plan or implement an amendment to the current plan. But we'll be discussing those at special meetings.
That's the time, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I won't, there is an issue that I don't know if we have purview to be able to debate on it or provide that recommendation. And it came from the discussion that I saw the council members having after they approved our recommendation pertaining to the public service organizations. Because again, they're capped up at a certain percent, but I never understood what that percentage was and why and how that bracket was identified. Because I know it's for public service up to 15%, but how was that? How is that 15% determined? Is that
I think
something
that's
that could be amended?
Like a federal government thing.
Was that the federal government?
Oh, those are CDBG regulations. Yes, yeah. Those thresholds are determined by HUD regulations, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They're already laid out. The city is not making those up. Those thresholds are in the CDBG regulations.
Does that help you? You still look like you're puzzled.
Because it's something that even the Seaside mayor has shared for the longest time when you're looking at the CDBG funds and you're looking at not so much the capital projects, those are more flexible because building materials obviously change in price. But when it comes to public service, when you're looking at public service and what that's providing to your community to grow and continue, that is always a high demand need.
It does feel like the percentages are wrong, but I don't know,
Yeah.
there's nothing we can do about it. But
But there's always something you could do about it because percentages at some point, there was some kind of feasibility study that determined that was going to save the government money by having that percentage. So my question would be, when was the last time they did a feasibility study?
Feasibility study?
Yeah, feasibility study to see if it's effective of that percentage that you're using due to current times now. So
We can't even can we do a feasibility study? I thought those numbers were
We can
already
do that, but
established.
can we recommend?
It's established, right? So we can't do a
Yeah, but it
feasibility.
was established at some point because there was a feasibility study done.
But that was by HUD, not by the city of Seaside.
You are asking excellent questions, and unfortunately, the limits are outside the local and state jurisdictions. These percentages are prescribed in our federal regulations that pertain to CDBG. I don't know. I mean, we'll probably need to reach out to HUD, but as for I think you bring up a good point about feasibility study. So in 2023, so in addition to the annual action plans, in the annual evaluation plans, every 4 years, the city has to put together a consolidated plan for the next 5 years. That's the larger plan. For that, we need to hold a lot of community needs assessments, workshops, and do something similar to a feasibility study,
Right,
where we identify community needs and things. Yeah. And perhaps we can, there are a lot of other federal programs that would provide funding to jurisdictions like Seaside for other services to tackle homelessness. Like CDBG is one of the money entitlement programs that the city is currently taking advantage of. There's ESG, there's home, there's a lot of other federal grants available to the city to apply for and receive them, and then help the community. So we can, but that will be our job in 2023, to have a lot of meetings with the community, identify community needs, identify resources, and then have a very comprehensive document, which it will be called the Consolidated Plan, which we will ultimately submit to HUD. So
okay, so you're saying we can include that in the consolidated report that you're gonna turn in mid-August?
No, the consolidated plan. So we have one in place. It was adopted in 2020. It is good through 2024.
Okay.
But starting next year, mid next year, we will kick off the consolidated plan development process, planning and development
That's the time
process.
where we can do.
That's when we will need a lot of meetings. We'll probably have at least 2 or 3 large
What
community.
you want to do, just not till next year.
Yeah, but for now,
It was done during COVID.
Well, have the percentages been the same for many years? Do you know?
yes, and I'll share a video with you that HUD has put together that talks about how HUD has determined these limits and how they allocate funds to local jurisdictions. They explain the formula, so it will help you. I'll share some resources with you.
Okay.
But and CDBG funds are not meant to, replace your general fund monies or other resources. They, of course, they're limited, and they should be targeted towards, low and moderate income needs and housing needs and community development needs. They're not meant to cover, answer all of your questions, or, the city has a general fund. So we could ask the city council to allocate funds from the general fund to something that we need is critical and needs to be addressed.
Yes, because they have a surplus, 400,000. So, but we could make a recommendation.
Yeah, I'd rather do that this year than next year.
Yeah.
I mean, again, so you're the CDBG Advisory Committee. We'll need to look at how that fits into this committee's role to make such, broad recommendation to ask the council to spend money that's non-CDBG on a community need. You can, I mean, as a citizen, as a resident, as an advocate. No, as an advocate, as a resident, as a committee member, I think you are absolutely welcome to reach out to council. They may, I mean, you never know, they, they may like the idea and go with it. That's how some of the, the items make their way to their agenda for discussion and consideration. So please
So, and the
do
committee-
share your ideas, don't hold back.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, and then just another example. So the American Rescue Plan Act monies, the city received a big chunk of monies. Some of it has already been allocated, including 150,000 or even more to commercial facade improvement projects. And it was within the council's purview. So they, in the ARPA money, I believe, is within the council's jurisdiction to determine how they want to allocate the monies to. So it's now a good time to, especially the city is in the process of developing the operating, budget and capital improvement budget for the next fiscal year. So
Right.
bring that up at the council meeting, please.
The American Rescue Funds,
Yeah.
The American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA.
what did you call it? R what?
ARPA.
ARPA.
ARPA, I got you. And do you know what the funds are?
So it's just, that was an act that was recently passed. And as part of that, I believe the city received a couple $1 million. The guidelines are very broad on what the city can spend the monies on. I think the city went through several exercises allocating those funds or trying to allocate those funds and identify areas of need in projects. But I think it's still in the works, that whole, ARPA.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah, I mean,
at
the
the
city.
next city council meeting, we should address that with them?
You could write to the council, write a letter, suggest ideas and projects and funding. But you could, of course, you can address the council at the next
Okay, do we
meeting.
have to do that as a committee, or is that something that's allowed individually, or?
I don't think it's this committee's role it's not CDBG related. ARPA is a different source of funds. So yeah, I would address the council just as a resident. It doesn't have to be, as a committee.
Okay, I'll be more than happy to contact the mayor and ask about those funds.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a good time because the city is in the process. The finance department is in the process of developing budget for the next fiscal year. I think we're getting a little off track. We are still on our CDAC meeting work plan. So we like the idea of having quarterly meetings, with the exception of our first quarterly meeting to take place on the fourth Wednesday. Is it the fourth Wednesday? Yes, the fourth Wednesday instead of the fourth Thursday, correct?
Right?
But we want all other future meetings on the fourth Thursday at 6 p.m. in this conference room in which you are in now, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. And then we will determine the need for special meetings on as we go along.
Okay, so do you want to go ahead and pick a date for the next one after July? That would be October?
I think, yeah, so that would be October, and then it would be October 24th. No, I apologize, October 27th.
Yeah, it was like, okay, October 27th.
Yes. And then November 24th, which appeared to fall on maybe Thanksgiving. But we'll change the date, either move it ahead or move it.
Quarterly.
I apologize. Yes. Okay. My bad. Okay. January 26th then. And then again, April 27th.
Mhm.
And we may need a meeting we may need a special meeting sometime in January of 2023 for staff to present the draft annual action plan. I know we approved this, both CDAC and the City Council approved funding for this upcoming fiscal year as well as the following, but HUD still works on an annual basis, and they would like for the city to draft an annual action plan annually and go through the process. So staff will be preparing a draft annual action plan for fiscal year 23-24 and bringing it to this committee just for review to make sure that we are including the funding that was approved like just weeks ago or 2 weeks,
Right.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. And then we'll be taking it to the council. We'll be opening it up for public comment and then submitting it to HUD. That's just an annual cycle with HUD. They want us to draft an annual action plan, whether we approve funding for 3 years or we approve funds for a single year. We still need to go through the plan development process annually, open it up for public comment for 30 days, have a city council here, have a CDAC hearing, have a city council hearing, and then submit it before May to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So, but staff will alert the chair in advance of those anticipated needed meetings, and then inform the committee, just poll the committee as to a good date and time for the committee to hold a special meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Perfect. But just in general, a regular meeting will be every quarter. And then on the fourth Thursday at 6 p.m. in this conference room, unless it's a community needs assessment workshop where it will be held in a separate location.
Okay.
Okay.
We have to be at this workshop?
So those are not, I mean, those won't happen until later in the summer next year. But yes, we will all, I mean, we'll be the moderators and facilitators. So yes. And then we'll need to come up with creative ways, because we've been on this, kind of autopilot mode with the CDBG program, where we, same subrecipients apply. It's the same, kind of a set of subrecipients and projects. But I think we need to, there are definitely unique needs out there. We need to make sure that we reach out to those hard to access communities.
Can we have like a special meeting to have like a mock workshop to see an idea what it is? Like, have you never?
And when would you like that to?
That's more time, but.
But do you have anything on Zoom that we can look
Yeah,
at?
like you have.
An old one?
I believe there is a video recording. But I can, yes, I can, or I can try to find a different city, maybe just to show a sample with you.
Oh, that
But
would be
usually-
good. Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, just give me something to look at so I know what's coming.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes,
I'm
yeah,
not always
yeah.
like, okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, all really the intended outcome of those community workshops is to really get people to talk about their concerns and their needs, and make sure that we allocate funds to and prioritize funds to the actual needs of the community. So it's
Right.
really just, we just need to get out there, engage people, encourage them to participate, and not just like our meeting tonight. We don't have anyone, participating and raising voice or concerns. So, but we just need to get out there and get creative and get creative too with our approach. I think technology is great, and we could probably
Right.
Yeah.
They don't know that.
Do
it
people,
really
how many
works
people
for
know that we're here? Like,
them.
So for this meeting, we did not publish it in the Monterey County Weekly, but for actual public hearing items, like if you're considering in approving funds or considering in approving a plan, we do publicize them in the Monterey County Weekly. We publish the agenda on the website, and I have a CDBG mailing list to which I send a generic email. The agenda has been published. You can access it here. And those definitely include all subrecipients. So, but they know when they need to participate in a meeting. So they would not participate in our regular meetings unless they're instructed to.
Right,
So,
My thing is how to better reach the public to know what's actually,
that's what he's asking us.
yeah,
Oh, you know.
like,
so for important milestones like the development, like the application process, we published the NOFA. There were several hearings involved, some, published in the Herald as well as in the Monterey County Weekly. We post, just briefs on the CDBG homepage. We send out emails. In fact, you'll see an email from me tomorrow that will say, notice to, invitation to, public comment or something like that on the annual action plan that you and City Council just approved. I've prepared a plan. It's about 50 pages. It basically includes the allocations, but a lot more details, narrative in that document. So those are the ways, but again, I'm open to suggestions, and because we did not have CDAC, the whole outreach and everything just kind of like,
Went away.
yeah, I feel
yes,
like
went away.
We
Yeah.
need to do some outreach.
we need to do some outreach, like, have a community walk along and just, actually talk to people and find out
Yeah,
what it is that they need help with.
right. So we need to reach out, whether it's, I don't know, if we could get a list of,
All the nonprofits.
That's it.
Mhm.
Thank you. Of all the nonprofits in the city of Seaside.
Yeah.
And request to do some tours just to see what they do.
I don't know if we should get together, the three of us, go and hold a meeting somewhere, or if we should individually walk into people's offices and, talk to them about a meeting that's coming up and about their opportunity and,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're not required to do that.
Me too.
But as far as, but I'm just trying to understand what the purpose of informing nonprofits would be if we don't have funding. Let's say at our April 27th meeting, we've already allocated funds. We're, only.
But yeah.
But no, it's like the same little faces are coming back,
Right, we need to
asking,
get
and then
variety.
right now, there's so much challenges that have come out during going through just COVID and recovering from it. So you have all these organizations that even had to change the service that they gave to the public.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
probably got to change of leadership
Yeah, they
too.
had to change.
And it's not that we can tell them you can get money now, but we can make them aware that that's something they can apply for and that the,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah. I mean, there are no limits to outreach when it comes to,
Remember we talked to you 6
Right.
months ago,
yeah. There are no limits to how much outreach we can and should do, really. These are federal monies, and the more outreach we do, the better. And I think we can also ask some of our, partners, or the agencies that receive funding to advertise the city CDBG program in some way, because we are sponsoring their programs.
Yeah, that's a real good idea.
Yeah. But really, the broader outreach that we need to do is during the development of the consolidated plan, in which we will identify new priorities, develop new goals, come up with priority groups that we need to target with the CDBG monies for the next 5 years. That's the
That's our
foundational document.
contribution- That's our contribution as the
Okay.
committee to the consolidated report.
So again, that plan is not, the planning of that plan does not occur until late summer next year, not this year, because we have one in place already.
So can we amend the one that's in place already if it's not working and meet the needs?
Um,
I think it's.
Ab-
Yeah.
abs-
I think it's,
Absolutely, yes, we can. And then
expand.
we absolutely can amend the consolidated plan to add new goals, establish new, establish new priority needs in all those things. But we have to go through a HUD requisite process. So we, again, we will be implementing what's called a substantial amendment to the consolidated plan. And we have to go through a public hearing process, public review and comment. But we need to have a concrete end goal and outcome in mind in order to do that.
Yes.
And not just identify a new goal, but not have the funds or the right, not be able to identify new projects. Especially like now, we just allocated funds for the next 2 years. Let's say we execute a substantial amendment, we identify new goals, new needs. How are we addressing them with the funds that have already been allocated?
Well, that's where I would like to talk to the mayor about the American Rescue Plan. Instead of waiting 2 years, maybe we can do something sooner, even with a smaller amount of funds.
Yeah.
For smaller projects that we can reach out to.
So here's another suggestion. Come next January, when our next annual action plan will be in the baking process. So we'll need to draft one based on the projects that we approved this year. However, what this committee can do is go through a robust needs assessment process. If we can identify new needs, new projects, better projects, that can benefit the community even better, we can absolutely incorporate those and maybe go through a NOFA process. Or even later this year, we can go through the needs assessment process. If we can identify new needs and goals and projects, we can open up notice of funding availability for the following year. We are not committed. We've not signed an agreement, and we won't sign a funding agreement with subrecipients for 2 years. It's only good for 1 year. And all those, the second year funding is contingent upon their performance, availability of funds, new community needs that may arise. So all those things. So I like your idea. You can even suggest to, have change the cycle back to 1 year, like go just like what other cities do. They go through the NOFA process, the needs assessment process on an annual basis rather than 2 years.
Yeah, we'll pick the 2-year cycle.
It doesn't matter now, hopefully we can go back to 1 year. I like the 1 year idea.
So that's something that the council will need to change via a resolution, and we can certainly take this committee's, but we need to agendize this. I'll need to bring this at the next meeting, include the resolution for your review and consideration, and then provide me with direction, and I can go back to council and request changing that back to 1 year.
Okay.
So in that case, so for example, I can give you Monterey's example. Monterey they are on a 1 year funding cycle. They do the NOFA each year. They release the NOFA in October or November of each year, and then receive applications on an annual basis. And then also, go through or hold some assessment workshops to make sure that they are not missing out on new opportunities and needs and priorities.
Exactly, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Right? You get it?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking to you.
No, I'm listening,
Okay.
I'm just, my mind.
Going at
thinking,
the same
yeah.
time, yeah. But do you think it's better if we go annually instead of every 2 years?
One of the benefits I can see if we did 2 years is they have like they know like that second year, if they're doing like a longer term project or something, they know they're gonna have those funds sitting there waiting on them. And if we went 1 year, they may not know that, or we may have less funds, or we may not be able to give it to them again. That's something I can think of with 2 years.
The benefit.
One thing, I'm sorry to interrupt. One thing to keep in mind is that having the NOFA on an annual basis entails a lot of administrative work and sometimes maybe unnecessary work because it will probably be the same organizations. They're not going away from Seaside, that will be reapplying.
Yeah.
So just having those agency presentations about the same recurring services, as well as the evaluations of applications, the NOFA, it just adds a lot to the staff's plate as well as the committee's work. So
2 years, yeah. Okay, I get it.
yeah,
But
and what I can do is I can share the previous staff report as well as the resolution, and maybe I can find the audio so you can listen to what the reasons were for switching to the 2-year NOFA
Okay.
cycle. Yeah.
If we could streamline it and make it easier, then that would be an option for a 1 year. But if it's gonna take that much work, then, the 1 year may not be feasible.
Yeah, no, so again, keep in mind, please, that when we are on the 2-year funding cycle, when we approve funding for 2 years, that's not an actual commitment. We are just tentatively approving those funds. They're not even available to the city yet. They will be available to us later in September. And they will only be available to us for 1 year. So, and plus, we only sign agreements with them for 1 fiscal year, not 2 years.
That just doesn't make sense to me, Yeah. I would like it all to fall into line.
But
Times are different too. Because there's like more money thrown out than in the past.
Well, I don't know about that, but I would like to make sure that we are able to allocate the funds to some new people and maybe even get additional funds like with the American Rescue Plan Act.
again, I mean, there are other grant opportunities the city can take advantage of. CDBG funds are intended for, specific purposes and projects and have limitations and strings attached. So unfortunately, there's not a lot and it's not a lot of money. It's only $450 something thousand, and we don't even know our actual allocation. They've been unusually late. By now they had usually posts the appropriations, but they've not done that yet. And I reached out to our field office representative, and they said they have no idea when had plans on posting the appropriations on their website.
Okay. I hope it doesn't go to Ukraine. Good. The government.
All right. I think this is good discussion, but a little outside the scope of this meeting.
Okay.
Went down the rabbit hole.
I think I have direction on our meetings. And then hopefully as we go along, we can, our next meeting is not too far away. It's only a month from now. So we can, if you have any ideas, if you'd like to agendize something, please share with me so I can share with the chair, make sure it's okay for, putting it on the agenda. The items should not only come from staff. The committee, as a committee, you have, of course, the purview to, request something to be on the agenda. So we'll work together on developing the agenda for future meetings.
Okay, and are we allowed to speak to each other? I know we weren't able to do that before, but.
Unfortunately, not all 3 of you, but it will constitute quorum and.
So, like, we can't have quorum, basically.
Correct, yes. And no, you can meet just, as individuals. And
But she's walking up the street and we gotta stop talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if it comes to an item that is on the agenda or will potentially be on the agenda, like if it's a CDBG business item, just collectively discussing might cause, might be an issue. But if you all three get together, for after our, I don't know, just snack, then that's perfectly fine. I don't see any issues with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could hang out, but we can't
But
talk
we can't
about.
talk about, but what if I spoke, with one and just over the phone? Would that be okay?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we
okay.
haven't met before.
And then I can talk to her.
Well, what is quorum when it's three?
Because we are the quorum.
We are the
We're
quorum,
supposed
yeah.
to
We
be,
can't make any decisions
We
unless
can't.
there's three people.
Right.
That's why
So two out of three would.
when I'm late, it just
Okay.
messes everything
Got it.
up.
there's,
You don't have to.
we're supposed to be 5 of us.
Right.
And
And out of 5, 3 is
Right.
quorum.
Mhm.
3 is
Okay.
quorum, so.
Yeah.
I've been looking for some people, gave your number out already, just,
Thank
Gave
you.
the
I
number
appreciate.
I did, I
Yeah.
Um,
All right, Madam Chair, I think we had good discussion on this. I have a staff member that's in the office, who's in the office and is waiting for us to leave probably.
I move to adjourn.
Is there any other item, I think?
Well, we have to vote on something.
Do we have any reports from the committee?
Reports from committee members?
No
I
report.
have no report. Do you have a report? No. You have a
Nope.
report? Nada.
I don't have a report, but I have an update. I prepared the annual action plan, which includes you were in the city council's recommended allocations. It has been posted on the website. It was a notice regarding the plan in the public notice. The public comment and review was posted in the Monterey County Weekly, I think a week or two ago. And I'll share the link with you, and I'll send an email blast to all of the people on my email list,
Okay.
and invite them to comment and review, and in case they have any comments. And I'll be taking that plan to the city council on April 21st for adoption. So after the council adopts it, and hopefully by then, we will know our exact annual allocation, and that's when staff will inform the council as to how much exactly we will have for the next fiscal year. And then accordingly, reduce or increase the allocations. And then once council approves that plan, we will be submitting it, not just the PDF, but we submit it via a database called IDIS that HUD uses for grantees like us. And then we wait and look forward to hear from HUD by hopefully June. Usually they send the initial award letter in July, and then the final award letter in August. And then the funds become available to us in IDIS, the HUD software, sometime in September. So that's about it for me, and I'll keep informing you as things come along the way.
When you say you're posting things to the Monterey County Weekly, is that in print or digital also?
It's print.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just we have it in our CDBG citizen participation plan, that once we have these plans available, that we make them available and publish them, and do as much outreach as possible.
I was just curious. I read the weekly from time to time, like online, but I've never seen anything related to this, so I was curious.
It should be I think it should be also available online in the legal ads section.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to vote.
All right, so we're done?
Do we have to vote? I thought we had to vote.
Do we have to vote on the meeting plan, or is it, do we just direct?
No, it's just, but I'm not asking, and again, it's not like a set in stone schedule. It is going to be, the work plan, and everything is going to be a living, it's not even a document. I'm just gonna update the website to say CDAC meets quarterly on, this date, this time, at this location. It also helps the city clerk to set up an agenda template. And then I'll also include that CDAC will call meetings as needed on the website. Yeah. But this was a good discussion. It helps staff anticipate, the community needs, the committee needs, as well as when to prepare staff reports and plan for things.
All right.
Okay,
Now we can move to
Madam
the-
Chair, can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting then, please?
Yes. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. And that's been granted. We need to take roll.
All right, Committee Member Bergman,
Aye.
Committee Member Parker,
Aye.
and Chair Cormier.
Aye, aye.
Excellent, perfect. That was a great meeting. Thank you so much all for your time and participation, and I'll see you next month with a lot of information.
Fantastic.
Do I
All
hang
right.
up on you here? Do I hang up on you or, I don't know.
No, Gabby will handle the computer as well as the office. Have a good night and have a good weekend, you all.
All right, thank you. Good to see you
Bye-bye.
again. Here is my business card, and on the back,